Hi, welcome. In this video, I'm going to be doing a small project in our RV. It has to do with the closet area. In the closet, it has a space for 4 of these to hold 2 table legs when you're not using the table or during travel. What's happening is they just have a very thin panel here and the screws just keep coming out. I did try to use these things in the wall, but it didn't turn out as it pulled out. Here's a better look at it. You can see these was there, and I tried to repair once, and the top ones are still fairly solid, but the issue is these panels are really thin, and I don't know if it was a mistake on Thor's part, but to me they should have a little backing here of solid wood so these would be screwed in properly. The hanging bar seems to be pretty solid, so there might be some wood back there. So I am going to try to fix this. First, I'm going to take this door off. It just hinges because this is a mirrored door and I don't want it to break. Then I'll remove the bar. And my idea is I'm going to be putting in this cedar tongue and groove. It's very, very thin, so it's not going to add much weight to the RV. But before that, this would probably be a lot better to screw in, but I think while I'm doing it, I'm going to cut a hole here and then put a piece of pine behind it here and there so it's nice and solid. And then depending on what you would want to do, if you have the same issue, just fill it all in, could paint it with melamine paint or get a special wallpaper made for RVs to cover this. So let's get started by removing the hinges here on the mirrored doors. Just as an aside, anybody else who might have a similar Thor, Gemini, or Compass RV, just wondering, just a common thing. They didn't put anything back there. It would have been so easy to just put a piece of wood there and would not have had this issue. So just going to use some paper to make sort of a template here. So this would be the bottom, just so you know where the holes are. So holes are here, probably easier to do that. Around that spot. So that'd be the bottom. And I'll do the same for this one here. And probably these guys. Next step is to remove this trim molding that's all around the sides and bottom here. The piece on the sides are just like tape, and the pieces on the bottom is not exactly wood, but a little thicker, so easy to come off with just some staples there. So we'll finish that up. So all the trim has been removed. Now some of the staples are still in there, so I just pull those out with a screwdriver and pliers. So I've marked where I'm going to cut that. It's about 2 inches by 6.5 inches for both of those. So I'm now going to use a multi-tool to cut it out. You can use a jigsaw if you want it, whatever is convenient for you. So I've cut the 2 holes, and I have these pieces ready to go. So they'll go in like that. glued in. So I'm going to add the glue. I'll put a couple of screws temporarily until the glue sets. So I'll do that now. Just one screw. So that's the first one. I'll do the second one the same way. We'll wait for this glue to set completely, and then I'll just glue this back in there so it's a flat surface. Going to now glue these pieces in there. So I'm going to use a little bit of wood glue, then a few dabs of CA glue to act like a clamp. That dries fast, and the wood glue will take a while. Spray some activator on there for the CA glue, and then stick this in there. Hold it for a few seconds, and then the CA glue will act like a clamp to hold it down well, and then the wood glue will cure with about 45 minutes or so. Do the same with the other one. So I'm just going to leave this overnight, and then take the little screws out here, which I won't need, or could leave them there, but rather not have them in there. Day 2, and all the glue is set. I will remove these screws just because they're not needed. I don't need to have any metal there, but since I'm doing the cedar shiplap, I'm going to start with that. But if you didn't want to do that and had a similar issue, then I would just fill this all in, get it nice and smooth, sand it, and either paint it with some kind of paint or get an RV wallpaper maybe to match this back part or something similar. And then that would have been a job completed. After, I think some of the wallpaper comes with trim or whatever. And this is 22, so if you got any wallpaper that was 24, then it would be one piece there. But anyways, for me, I'm doing the shiplap. So for the back, the measurement is about 17 3/4. 17 3/4. So if I did 17.75 divided by roughly 3.5, and that's 5 pieces should fit there nicely. For the sides, it's 22 inches. 22 divided by 0.5. That says 6.28 pieces, so I'll just have to figure out, trim a couple of pieces so that I don't have any really small piece. So altogether 5 for the back, and I'll need like 7 for each side. So I'm going to start by cutting the first one. The height is 42, roughly 42.5 inches. So I'll cut one end just to get rid of the shiplap edge, get a nice flat surface. And there's the first piece cut. Nice tight finish. Walls look pretty straight. Trim a little bit as I go. Okay, anyways, I'll do one at a time and make sure they fit nice and snug. I took all the pieces out of the boxes and discovered that they're not all full length. Each box had 3 that were not full length, and those are not long enough. But luckily there was enough for my project of the long ones. So I won't need to use these extra, which would just go together like that, which wouldn't be a big deal. Just a quick note, if you're using this same cedar shiplap, is it has one side that's smooth and one side that's rough. So it can be used either way depending on what your preference is. We want the smooth, so you just have to make sure that you line them all before you cut so that you get the shiplap edges the correct way. Just as a dry fit, I took the 5 shorter pieces to go across, and you can see we'll have to cut a little bit, so I'll cut just a little bit off the first one and whatever is needed on the last one. Originally I was going to glue the panels to the wall, but I think I'm just going to use some small brad nails, just a few here and there. That way, if for any reason they'd want to be removed, they could be. The glue would really damage the walls. So let's try to just use the nailer. For the last piece, the top looks to be about 3 1/4. And the bottom 3, so I need to have it tapered just a little bit. So I'm going to use the track saw to make this tapered cut. I said 3 1/4 to 3. Let's go see how it fits. So here's the back wall with the last piece cut and nailed in. So now we can start with the sides. Here's the first side piece put in. I just trimmed the edge off first, and now I'm ready to do the rest of them. Now for the last piece, roughly 3 1/4 at the top. And 3 on the bottom. So again, not fully straight. Here's the right side completed. Again, it took 6 pieces and a little bit of trimming. So just have 6 more to do on the left now. I've trimmed the edge on the first piece, and now this one's ready to install. For the last piece here, it's going to be a little bit tricky because of that wire, which I can't take apart, so I'm just going to have to cut around it. But first I'll measure what I need for the last piece, measuring from the top and from the bottom. So the top is just under 3 1/2 and the bottom 3 1/4. Just going to have to measure for the wire here. Roughly that. Then the bottom right here. Here's the last piece on the left side put in. And then we just have that slot on the top. Now I'm just going to glue this piece in there. And here it is with the final piece in. I think it all looks really good. Next step is now to install the hanging bar and the brackets to hold the table legs. Going to start by just putting a mark for one of those holes on the left for the hanging bar. And then I'll drill a pilot hole. I'll do the same thing here on the right side using the exact same template, so it should be in the right spot. Drill a pilot hole there. With the added cedar shiplap, I'll have to cut the bar just slightly, just so it'll fit in there. I've installed the first screw on each side, so now I can do the second one. And now for the other side. Now I'm going to install the brackets for the table legs and start with here, marking 2 holes. So one here and one here. Do pilot hole. And I'll put in the screws. There's the first one. I'll just make sure they're nice and straight. I can drill a hole for the second. The 2 screws in each are there. Now this should be super solid and never come off. Now, I think Thor made them very straight, so I'm going to try to make them as straight as possible. And that'll be the first holes. And figure out the height. So I think a good distance from the ceiling will be about 20 inches right there. I measured 20 inches from the ceiling, so I made a mark. First hole there, and first hole for the other one here. Then do the pilot holes. And then the first screw for each. Straight. Also do the second hole on that one. Now the second one. Nice and straight.
then the last screw. Nice and solid. Now all brackets are there for the table leg. Just go in like that. Last step is to reinstall the mirrored closet door. This now concludes this video of installing cedar shiplap in our RV, mainly because these things weren't very solid, as it had very thin hollow walls. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.